You guys hear that wind outside? It is windy AF. Anyways, today I am going to be doing my January wrap-up and my February TBR. And I wasn't really planning on doing this today. However, the video that I was planning on doing previously, I have to do some more collecting of information before I put it out there. And I think you guys will enjoy that video. Hopefully by next Friday it will be ready to go. But for right now, I'm just gonna do a wrap up. So I'm going to go in chronological order of when I read them. So starting with the first book that I read in the month. So without further ado, the first book that I read was Lux by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and this is the first and second book bind up. So there is Obsidian and Onyx in this book. I actually only finished Obsidian. And I read a little bit through Onyx, but I didn't finish it. I'm right here. I think I give this book a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I didn't really like it that much. I've never been a really big fan of alien books, so maybe that's why. And I also read this book right after I finished all 3 books in the Mara trilogy, and I love the Mara trilogy. So it was kind of during a reading slump that I tried reading this, so perhaps that has affected my opinion on it. But there were also other things that affected my opinion on it. For example, the massive amount of grammatical errors in this book. It was very disappointing. And normally, grammatical errors do not bother me, but when they're every other page, it starts to make me angry. This book just felt super immature to me, and it did not float my boat. It makes me question the credibility of these booktubers who are recommending books, because I also read Throne of Glass and hated it. And this book, Throne of Glass series, I feel like are 2 of the most hyped books on BookTube. And it makes me wonder what other books they're recommending that I am going to try and read that are just mediocre. And that's what I felt like this book was. It was just mediocre. I might try and finish it, but you can see how well I treated the book. That kind of correlates to how I feel about the book. 10/10, would not read again. The second book that I read this month, my baby! I just dropped my baby. Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. And if you haven't seen my review on this book, then I'll link it down below. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and it was more of a 4.5 out of 5 stars, but I loved it. I read through it a second time. Not so much I loved it, because I don't normally read through books a second time. It's just amazing. There were some issues that I had with it, like I mentioned in my review video. So if you guys go watch that, you'll know my opinion on it. So I'm not gonna go too much into detail here about it. But I loved it. So much so, even that I plan on getting tattoos of the main character's silhouettes on my arms eventually. Now for the third book that I read this month. It is a smaller book, but after Carry On, I felt that a smaller book was appropriate. I picked up Absent by Katie Williams. It's been sitting around in my house for a while, and it's a really short book. I should save this book for when I'm in a reading slump, and I did, and it was really good. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I don't remember. I'll link my Goodreads account down below so you guys can go look at that. It read like a contemporary novel. It was about a girl who died, and she's stuck inside of her high school. She can't talk to anybody, and then she learns that she can possess people, and there's a rumor going around that she killed herself. But she says that she didn't, and she wants people to know that. So when she learns to possess people, she starts trying to make the rumor go away. It's a really cute book. The fourth book that I read is actually a manga, and it is Dragonar Academy. It is the first book in a series, and it is adorable. Look at the cover. What made me buy this was actually the first page, because that's the first page, and I was just like, okay, but it's really good. It does contain a lot of nudity. It's about a boy who goes to this academy where everyone rides dragons. And the way you get your dragon is you basically birth it, which sounds really awful, but it's not like you push it out of your vagina or anything. It's more like it just comes out of you. He is different from most of the dragon riders because he can ride any dragon he wants, while most other dragon riders can only ride their own dragon. The first book is kind of just him finally meeting his dragon because it hasn't been born yet. And so that's his dragon, and his dragon's different from all other dragons. She comes out in human form, and that's her on the cover. I suck at explaining things. The last book that I read was a bit of a disappointment, and that was Zesty, Volume 1 by Margot Redding, Lawrence Ryder, and Studio Kasaru. This is a boys' love book, which if you don't know what that is a boy-on-boy love story. This book was originally a webcomic. Each chapter was actually maybe like 3 or 4 pages long. So I think like the comic maybe came out weekly, and so it was kind of choppy in the way it read, and it just wasn't very original. It was cute enough, and I can't remember if I gave it 2 or 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but it was okay. I own the second one, so I'm gonna read the second one probably when I'm in a reading slump. And that is that for all of the books that I read in the month of January. So these are the books that I plan on reading in the month of February. The first book that I plan on reading is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefwater. Don't really know much about what this is about, except for it's about 5 boys and a girl. And I read the inner flap of this book and was a little turned off because it sounds super cheesy. But I'm gonna give it a try anyways. Second book I'm going to try and read is a graphic novel called Nimona by Noelle Stevenson. And you guys might recognize the art on this cover if you've read Fangirl or Carry On, because this is the artist who drew Simon and Baz and also drew them. So I don't know what this is about, but there's a chubby heroine in it with a shaved head, and that just turned me on to the book immediately. There's also a blurb by Rainbow Rowell at the top here, so I just have to read it. The next 2 books are manga, and one of them I've already started, and that book is Monster Musume. I think that's how you say it. It's about a boy who lives with monsters, and they keep hitting on him, and they wear very, very revealing clothing. And there's also a lot of nudity in this book. So far, it's really good though, from what I've read. The next book is another manga, and that is Gakuen Police. I probably butchered that. By Milk Morinaga. And this is a Yuri book, which if you don't know what that means, it is a girl and girl love story. And I'm excited because I haven't read Yuri in a while. It's hard to find really good Yuri. And I have 2 more books that I'm gonna mention, and they're kind of books that I'm just like off and on reading, not really like reading all in one sitting. The Dream It, List It book. See, they're basically lists and stuff, if you can see that. And you just kind of go through and check them off, and there's little quotes and stuff like that. And finally, the last book that I'm reading is actually not a physical book. I am listening to the audiobook of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and I'm on chapter 4 currently, and so far it is amazing. Those are all of the books that I have read in January and all the books that I'm planning on reading in February. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you next Friday. Bye!